Here at Cracking the Cash Flow Co. And my guest today is Mark Ogden from Ogden Mechanical. And we're going to do a session today, which I'm really excited about, which is we're going to talk about how Mark got to where he is. He's been in the mechanical engineering business for 20 some odd years. So he has a little bit of experience behind that. And those of you in blue collar businesses, specifically construction businesses, will probably learn something today. And I hope I do too. So let's bring Mark on. Hey, Mark, how are you today?
Hey Josh, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. So tell me, you've been doing this for quite a while, and what's the biggest challenge that you faced when you first started your business? And we'll go through some of the years.
Well, there was a lot in the beginning, but I think the biggest hurdle was gaining traction, gaining customers and getting a start. I basically started with zero, so um, gaining traction, getting customers, and then the problems start coming from there. But that was the biggest hurdle that I faced, and right out of the get go. So.
So before you started your company, were you working for somebody else?
I was, yeah. I graduated from Eastern Maine Community College in 19, I said 2000, sorry, 1994, 1996. I started in the field in 1994 and worked while I was going through college. That's what put me through college. So, um, yeah, that's where I started, and then I went to work for several companies after college before I started on my own. So.
So why did you decide to start your own business instead of staying working for somebody else?
Well, that's a great question. Many reasons, I guess. The biggest one was I just wanted to control my own destiny. I was always one of the guys that would take the calls at night, even if I weren't on call. I would work on the weekends, even if I weren't on call. Um, I just always wanted to try to better myself. So I thought if I went to work for myself, then I could control how I did that. And that's what really drove me into the self-employment business. So
Well, that's true with most people I find who start their own businesses.
yeah,
So you've kept your business pretty small. You have 3 employees. Is that correct?
I have. Yeah, I've actually had two separate mechanical contracting companies. I started another company back in 2000 and had 13 employees at the peak, and then I sold that company in 2017. Um, Took a few months off, finished my wife's list to do around the house, and then got bored and decided, well, it's time to start another business. So I started another mechanical contracting business. So
And how long has this one been around?
since 2019, so 4 years.
Okay.
Yep,
So do you have any interest in making it bigger than it is right now?
that is the $1 million question. When I when I first started, back in again, it was just me, and it was really easy, really manageable. And then the entrepreneur in me kicks in, and I start seeing these little opportunities that you can reach out and grab, and then the opportunities get bigger and more, and then I hire someone, and then my wife kind of looks at me and shakes her head and says, "I can see where this is headed." That was last year. So last year I hired a first employee back, and then number two that same year, and then I just hired a third, plus me. So I would say yes. That's probably the direction I'm heading. Is back where I was before again.
So when did you sell your other business?
2017, yeah, 2017. Yeah,
So you're probably past any sort of a covenant not to compete with the person you sold to.
I am. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Um, how did you like going through the sales process? Let's talk about that for a minute or two.
Yeah. So that again was a learning experience. With my background, I turned wrenches. I was a mechanic. That's what an HVAC mechanic does, and which I still love to this day. I'm probably one of the oddballs of the industry where I really prefer going out and fixing things versus sitting in the office and and doing that, the office stuff. So I try to keep a little bit of a mix to keep myself fresh in the field too. Um, but the sale, starting in sales after being a mechanic for about 10 years it was a real eye opener. You learned a lot, and the best way to learn is just to go out there and put yourself out there, and you'll get shut down, and then learn from that and build from that, and that's just the process that it is all the way through. So it was very humbling in the beginning. You heard a lot of no, you heard a lot of questions that we're looking for a bigger company, or we're looking for this, we're looking for that. So it took me a while to gain some traction, but it was an
So
interesting.
do you do mostly commercial or residential work?
We do, yeah. We do mostly commercial. We do some residential, mostly for our commercial customers, but mostly commercial.
So with the mechanicals that you do you design or do you just install?
No, we do a lot of design build stuff. We also do a lot of installs, but I'd say probably 60% of our business, 65% of our business is service and maintenance. And then, we have a mix of design build stuff and also install stuff. And I also have a advisory kind of position that I do too, with some engineering firms and things like that I work with to help them through, if they have any questions or things that I can kind of help on. So I don't like to
So
sit still, and if you can tell that,
yeah, it sort of seems that way. So so with the service work that you do, is that under service contracts or is that by the hour?
most all of our service stuff is by the hour. We have a couple of service contracts from national accounts, but most everything is by the hour.
And so you guys basically go out and you do the work and you charge them an hourly rate that you're out there.
Yeah, yeah. Time and material. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I assume that's worked well for you.
It has worked well for us. We're in a little different demographic than a lot of the country is. We're kind of off to the side. So for instance, today I left at 4 a.m. and I drove 263 miles today, and I did two service calls. So that's almost unheard of in this trade. A lot of places stay within city limits, and they only go so far. Well, they have different branches. We don't. We cover really from the top of the state to the bottom of the state in both east and west. So we have a large area to cover. So time and material is a little more important for us than flat rate because of the variables that we could encounter in a 150-mile travel. So
So you're based in Maine, correct?
correct. Yep. Mid Maine.
Which is a huge state, and two, a very rural state, except for the Portland area.
Very rural. Yes, very rural. I live in a small town. I grew up in a small town of 250 people. So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
So that makes some sense. So have you ever thought about, because here's a problem with time and materials. You're sort of stuck at the profit level you're going to get based on what your hourly rate is.
That is very true.
And if you're more efficient, it really doesn't benefit you at all. It just benefits your client. So have you ever thought, I mean, even with, the distance you drive, it would make sense that, a project fee would give you an opportunity to do better than what you do right now.
It would. So there's a flip side to that coin too. We have a zero um, budget for advertising. We do not advertise. We have never had to in 25 years. And the reason for that is because and I'm probably going to take a lot of flack for how I'm presenting this, because it's not the most business savvy model in the world, but it works for us with our demographic. Um, we take care of our customers, and we build our business, grow our business, and sustain our business off from customer service. That's number one all the time. That is the most important thing that we utilize and do. And I've been extremely fortunate to have some clients for 25 years based off that principle exactly. The flip side of that coin too is that we don't have to spend a lot of time doing quotes and in the office doing work because those clients trust us to take care of their stuff even on the install end. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. If you start throwing in, cost for advertising and things with those relationships that you don't build, then the flat rate thing, you know what I mean, doesn't look so great if you sustain it that way. There's a middle ground there, but I may be slightly stubborn along with I don't like to sit still too. That has a lot to do with it. But it's avenues that I'm pursuing, that I'm looking into, that I have been stuck in doing things the same way for so long. That I've been fortunate enough in the last 6 to 8 months to talk with some people like you, that kind of opened my eyes to new ways of looking at things, even in our demographic. Um, with
It's
business models.
I would submit that especially on commercial work, I used to own a food service and vending company,
Yeah,
and I hated paying anybody by the hour because I was always looking at their hours. What I find about flat rate, and I think you would find this too with your customers, even though the demographic you have, the business owner, if you say, look, your job is going to be $3,000, I know it's going to be $3,000. And frankly, after that, I stop watching how much time you're spending because I'm happy with what I'm going to pay. And the truth is, people who've been in business for a long time, 95% of the time, you know exactly how long it's going to take you to do something
yeah,
or should take you to do something. And if you can figure out how to do it faster or better, you get to keep the extra. So you get the benefit for it. The customer's happy already because they're paying you what they think is a fair number.
yeah.
Like when I have a contractor work on my house, I will never, ever do hours in material because I've gotten screwed by that so many times.
There's an interesting story behind that. I'm the same way. I will never hire anyone to do any work for me unless I have a price. I want to know what the price is because I've been so many times I've been through the exact same thing. Well, we need to do this now, or it's an extra $10,000, and so you would think I would put those two things in correlation and come up with that assumption myself, but
Well, it's actually true. I mean, it's really true. It's like, with my CPA, for example, CPAs have a really hard time charging project fees. And they want to charge you by the hour because they're so afraid they might have to spend 2 hours more on one client than they
yeah,
do. But my experiences with project fees is that 95% of the time it takes you less time than you think. And 5% of the time it takes you more time than you think.
yeah,
And the challenge comes in is that we focus on that 5% and never think about the 95%. That's called loss aversion, by the way.
yeah.
We are way more averse to losing than we are excited about winning. And it just makes it crazy. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time. And I always find it really curious that, folks say, well, I might lose some money. I said, well, yeah, will lose some money sometimes. But if you sit there and you look at your averages, you're probably, let's say your rate you want to hit is $125 an hour, and you go out and you bid a job. It's going to take me 10 hours. I'm going to bid it for 1,200. Well, if it takes you 8 hours, guess what happened to that $125 rate?
It went
It
up.
just became 140 or 150.
Yeah, yeah.
And to me, it just is the only logical way of doing business.
It is even up here, and I say up here because I still, we're still in a little bubble up here. But
Sure.
things have changed up here. COVID, pre-COVID, right around the first of COVID, during COVID, where hourly rates started actually creeping up to national averages, where they haven't been that way for a very, very, very long time, especially smaller businesses. So now that even the smaller businesses are starting to get up into that upper echelon of hourly rates, which then you have to start looking at different ways to approach every scenario. So that's why I've tried to open my eyes quite a bit. Different things, scaling, growth, flat rate, you know, maintenance contracts. There's a lot of things that you have to start really looking into at that point. So the problem is I keep myself so busy that it's hard to find the time to sit down and focus on those.
That's the challenge with a really small business. With a really small business,
Yeah,
you're always busy doing stuff, so you never really get much of a time to
yeah,
think about how can I make my business better.
yeah.
And that's a
Very
challenge. Have you found a way to carve out some time for yourself?
No. Well, I shouldn't say that. Part of selling the bigger company and going back to a smaller company was that exactly. Work was predominantly all that I did, 7 days a week.
Yeah,
So I have hobbies that I like to fish and hunt. There's just certain things that I like to do that I wasn't getting to do. I hadn't really been fishing for almost 10 years. So when I sold that first company and had a little time off, my wife and I spent a lot of time fishing and doing some things, and got a chance to kind of plan out a little bit better strategy than I had the last time. So I don't jam pack my days like I used to, and I refuse to really be out there nights and weekends like I used to. So I think that's the getting older part of being a business owner, that you have to set a few boundaries that you won't cross, and they have to be hard drawn lines. You can't tiptoe over them. Then before you know it, you fully stepped over them, and there you are back where you was again. So yeah,
yeah.
I've tried to do that. To
That's
take
a
time.
that's a big deal.
Yeah,
I'd like to talk a little bit about the fact that you don't advertise, which the truth is for small construction companies,
yeah,
they really don't need to advertise.
no.
I don't know if you do any Google reviews or when somebody finds you, I assume it's from word of mouth most of the time.
It is, and that's this area is very small. The communities that we're in are small. Word travels fast. I shouldn't say we don't do any paid advertising. We have a Facebook page, so I,
Yeah,
I utilize that when I can. It's free advertising. One of the things that I've tried to do for 25, 26 years now is a lot of volunteering. Um, it gets us out into the community as a company, and we get to provide a service to people. We get our name out there. It's been a way that we've really grown and been able to help our communities. I'm a volunteer fighter in my town. It's just been a great way for us not only to help our business grow, but just to be a part of the community. That was always really important to at every business that I've ever had. To have that business be a part of the community that they're in, whether it be a bigger town or a smaller town. So it's still
yeah.
important.
The only thing you might want to consider at some point is I'm assuming that you have a Google business listing.
No.
Okay, well, you should start there. It'll take you 10 minutes. So if you do a Google business listing,
Yeah.
and then you go to your clients and you say, hey, would you give me a Google review? And if they like you, of course they'll give you a review and they'll give you a good review.
Yeah.
And you get 8, 9, 10, 12 Google reviews. Guess what Google does when someone puts HVAC in there?
Moves you up the ladder.
It shows your company
Yeah.
and it automatically goes, I don't know if you have a website, but you could send it to your Facebook page as far as that goes.
Yeah.
And that is a way to get business that doesn't cost you anything for advertising.
Yeah. The problem we have is that we don't have enough people in this area to supply for technicians. So we're at a major bottleneck in our area right now, and I think countrywide is the same
It's
way.
countrywide. I'm actually
Yeah,
working with a woodworking school in Vermont right now to help them figure out how they can get to 100 students a year
yeah,
in their program. And frankly, everybody in the trades, they're all screaming to find people.
yeah.
And there just aren't enough trained people right now. And the folks our age are breaking down and they physically can't do the work anymore.
Yeah, yeah, it's a huge problem. We have an older population. I think similar to Vermont, Maine
Yeah.
has an older population. So a lot of the technicians in our field, the guys that trained me back in the early '90s, are getting to the age now, 60 to 63, 64. They're starting to phase out, and there's a large amount of them, and we don't have the personnel coming behind them. So it's a big problem.
It is. And it's something that I hope that, at least younger folks start going to the local high schools and saying, hey, we need technical training for HVAC and plumbers and electricians and
Yeah.
carpenters. And, the truth is, there's a lot of stuff which you're probably not following. It's called, artificial intelligence, which is now wiping out white collar jobs like crazy. Well, one thing artificial intelligence is not going to wipe out is HVAC installers
That is
or
correct.
carpenters or roofers
Plumber.
or solar installers.
Yeah.
So we really need to be thinking about what is the workforce that we need. It's not a bunch of college graduates.
No, we,
Now, college is important for the right people, but for an awful lot of folks, they don't need college. They need trade and the trades. I mean, I don't know what you're paying your guys, but down here, a good electrician, a good HVAC person is making 75 to $100,000 a year.
yeah, yeah, we've got a couple guys that are up into that echelon now. You know, that the lead techs that we have, and you have to have good people to grow, to keep a business, to grow a business, to have a business.
Well, these
That's
are these are good jobs with good pay.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, there's a
It's
lot of college graduates that don't make that much money.
no, no. It's been an eye opener, I think, in this area for my son graduated from a local Hamden Academy in 2021. And prior to his class, he was like one of the first COVID classes. That's when the eyes started opening about, you know, doing, a blue collar job. And they really started pushing a lot of kids into technical schools. And I think in his class, there's 4 kids that went into HVAC, into the Eastern Maine Community College program from his class, which is unheard of. So it seems like we're pushing in the right direction. We just need to maintain that and build off from that because they start with 20 some kids there and they only end up with about 12 when it's all said and done.
Now, that's
So
typical for all these programs.
it is,
Hey,
yeah,
Mark. Hey, Mark. Unfortunately, we're out of time.
yeah,
So I'm going to bet some of your peers might want to give you a shout and have a conversation with you sometime
sure,
because you've certainly been around the block and have some ideas that maybe people might want to talk to you about. So, how
yeah.
would they find you?
Um, Email ogdenhvac@gmail.com. Um,
Okay,
our business line too is 207
cool. And I've got two things I would like you to do. One is this is the 401st time I'm asking you to do this, which is please go to wherever you're listening to this podcast and give us an honest rating and review. If you like us, let me know you love us. If you hate us, you can say that too, but I'll only cry a little bit. But those reviews are really important because it helps people find this podcast and folks listen to it. We have conversations like this with Mark about every week. So uh, please go in and give us an honest rating review. The second thing is one of the things I see that private business owners really have a struggle with, which is becoming how to become financially free from their business. So I developed this program I call the Financial Freedom Accelerator. And what it does is first it says, okay, where are you on the road to becoming financially free from your business? And the sad fact is, most of us are not even close with our businesses. Even Marcus, all his business, didn't allow him to ride off into the sunset. He needed other stuff that was going there. So once we figure out where you are on the road to financial freedom, we then say, okay, if you're not there, which is most of us, what strategies can you use that will get you to financial freedom? And some of that's what we call pre-funding your retirement. I don't want to get into a long thing here because that's not the purpose, but I'm hoping that you're interested in what the Financial Freedom Accelerator might be and want to learn a little bit more about it. And if you do, just go to www.sustainablebusiness.co/freedom talk. That's all one word. That's www.sustainablebusiness.co/freedom talk, and check it out and sign up to have a free conversation with me. I'd love to talk with you about it. So, this is Josh Patrick. We're with Mark Ogden. You're at Cracking the Cash Flow Code. Thanks a lot for stopping by. I hope to see you back here really soon.